The night that changed everything began with a man standing alone in the pouring rain, holding an umbrella over someone who had spent years making his life harder. Kieran Vale had every reason to walk away, but instead, he opened the car door for his boss, carried her heavy bag through the storm, and drove her home safely. He had no idea that one simple act of kindness would uncover a hidden pain, repair a broken life, and change the future for both of them forever. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping someone when they need it most, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Heart Kindness Tales. Kieran was the kind of man most people overlooked. He was not rich, he did not have a powerful position, and he rarely complained about the struggles he carried every single day. At 36 years old, he was a single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Maribel, while working long hours as a financial assistant at a large company. Every morning before sunrise, Kieran prepared breakfast, packed Maribel's school bag, checked her homework, and made sure she had everything she needed before leaving her with the neighbor who helped watch her during work hours. His life was a constant balance between deadlines, bills, school meetings, and the quiet moments when he wondered if he was doing enough for his little girl. The hardest part was that nobody at work knew how much effort it took for him just to keep going. They only saw a quiet employee who arrived early, stayed late, and rarely asked for anything. His boss, Serafina Crow, was completely different from him. She was known as a brilliant businesswoman who built her department from nothing. She was confident, demanding, and nearly impossible to impress. Many employees feared her because she expected perfection and had little patience for mistakes. To Kieran, she was simply someone who had never taken the time to see the people behind the work. Over the years, Serafina had corrected him harshly, criticized small errors, and pushed him harder than anyone else. Kieran sometimes went home feeling invisible, wondering if his boss even remembered that there was a person behind the numbers on the reports. But one Friday night, everything changed. The company had held a major celebration after finishing a difficult project. Most employees left early, but Kieran stayed behind to organize documents because he knew his responsibilities would still be waiting for him on Monday. When he finally walked toward the parking lot, he saw Serafina sitting alone on a bench near the entrance. The rain was falling heavily, and the bright office lights reflected on the wet pavement. At first, Kieran thought she was simply waiting for a driver. But as he walked closer, he noticed something was wrong. Her expensive coat was soaked, her phone was lying beside her, and her usually controlled expression had completely disappeared. For the first time, Kieran did not see his intimidating boss. He saw a tired human being who looked completely lost. She had been drinking at the celebration, more than anyone realized. She tried to stand, but the world around her seemed unsteady. Kieran immediately stepped forward to help. He knew it was risky. Helping his boss while she was drunk could create rumors. People might misunderstand. His co-workers might laugh. Serafina herself might even be angry the next day. But leaving her there in the rain felt impossible. Kieran carefully helped her into his car and placed her coat around her shoulders. The drive was quiet except for the sound of rain hitting the windows. He expected her to say something sharp, even in that condition, but she remained silent. When they arrived at her house, Kieran noticed something unusual. The large home looked beautiful from the outside, but inside it felt cold and empty. There were no family photos on the walls, no signs of laughter, no warmth. He helped her to the living room, placed a glass of water nearby, and made sure she was comfortable. He did not search for anything, did not ask questions, and did not take advantage of the situation. Before leaving, he quietly checked that she would be safe. As he walked back to his car, he looked at the huge house behind him and wondered how someone who seemed to have everything could look so alone. The next morning, Kieran woke up late because Maribel had crawled into his room during the night after having a bad dream. He smiled as he saw her sleeping peacefully beside him, remembering that these small moments were the reason he kept fighting every day. He made breakfast, prepared for work, and tried to forget the unusual night. But when he arrived at the office, something felt different. The whispers started immediately. Some employees looked at him strangely. Others became quiet when he walked by. Kieran soon realized someone had seen him taking Serafina home. He felt embarrassed, even though he had done nothing wrong. Then the elevator doors opened, and Serafina stepped out. The entire office became silent. Everyone expected her to be angry. Everyone expected Kieran to be blamed. But instead, Serafina walked straight toward him with a serious expression. She looked at him for a long moment, as if she was trying to understand something she had never noticed before. Then she asked him the one question that changed everything. She wanted to know why he helped her. Kieran was confused because to him the answer was simple. Someone needed help, and he helped. But Serafina seemed deeply affected by his response. For years, she had surrounded herself with people who wanted something from her. Employees wanted promotions, business partners wanted deals, and strangers wanted access to her success. Nobody had helped her without expecting something in return. That morning, she saw Kieran differently. She noticed the tiredness in his eyes. She noticed the way he carefully organized his work while carrying the weight of 1,000 responsibilities. She noticed that he always left quickly after work, not because he was careless, but because someone at home was waiting for him. For the first time, Serafina asked about his life. Kieran hesitated. He was not used to sharing personal struggles. But something about her tone felt different. He told her about Maribel, about losing his wife years earlier, about learning how to be both a father and a provider. He admitted that some days were incredibly difficult, but he never wanted his daughter to feel the sadness he carried. Serafina listened quietly. She realized she had judged him for years without knowing anything about him. That day, Kieran expected things to return to normal. He thought the conversation was just a strange moment that would disappear. But the changes started slowly. Serafina became less harsh. She began thanking employees instead of only pointing out mistakes. She started noticing the effort people made behind the scenes. And when she saw Kieran struggling with childcare because his neighbor had an emergency, she offered a solution that surprised him. She arranged a flexible schedule so he could spend more time with Maribel. Kieran did not know what to think. The same woman who once made him feel invisible was now helping him. At first, he wondered if there was another reason. But over time, he realized Serafina was changing because she wanted to become a better person. The truth was, that night had not only saved Serafina from being alone in the rain. It had shown her a kindness she had forgotten existed. Months passed, and the office transformed. People began smiling more. Employees felt respected. Serafina was still a strong leader, but now she understood that strength did not mean hiding every emotion. One afternoon, she met Maribel for the first time. The little girl was shy at first, but her kindness quickly broke through Serafina's walls. Maribel showed her a drawing she had made, and Serafina kept it on her desk afterward. Kieran noticed the change in her. The woman who once seemed to have everything but happiness finally looked peaceful. But there was still one thing Serafina carried from her past. She had spent years believing that success could replace love. She had pushed people away because she was afraid of being hurt. She had built a perfect life on the outside while feeling empty inside. Kieran's kindness reminded her that people were not meant to survive alone. One evening, after a long day, Serafina asked Kieran to meet her at the same place where he had found her that rainy night. The bench outside the office looked completely different under the warm evening sky. She admitted that she had been struggling for a long time. She had lost people she cared about, made mistakes she regretted, and convinced herself that nobody would ever see the real person behind her success. But Kieran had seen her when she was at her lowest and still chose compassion. That moment proved to her that a person's worst day did not define their entire life. Kieran smiled because he understood something too. Sometimes people who appear the strongest are the ones quietly carrying the heaviest pain. Their lives did not become perfect overnight. There were still challenges. There were still difficult days. But they were no longer facing them with the belief that they had to handle everything alone. Kieran continued being the loving father Maribel needed. Serafina continued growing into a leader who inspired others. And the small act of kindness on a rainy night became the beginning of a completely new chapter for both of them. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales for more inspiring stories. Before we reach the ending, I have a special request for you. Comment the word kindness below if you believe one good action can change a person's entire life. Because sometimes the smallest moments create the biggest transformations. A helping hand, a simple act of compassion, or a decision to stay when it would be easier to leave can become the reason someone finds hope again. Kieran thought he was only taking his boss home that night. He never imagined he was opening the door to forgiveness, healing, and a second chance for two people who needed it more than they knew. And that is the true power of kindness.